A lady who is very dear to me, I ate too much. I've forgotten what it's like to preach right after lunch. We're reading from the 10th chapter of John this afternoon, and verse 10. The thief cometh not but to kill and to destroy and to steal. But I am come that they might have life, and that more abundantly. Let me ask us to fill in a blank this afternoon. Life is. One fellow I read said it's difficult. A biologist who has no belief in God wrote, life is nothing but amino acids. I read one fellow who said that life is the hyphen between the dates on your tombstone. I think you remember what Forrest Gump said it was. Life is just a box of chocolates. I believe his mother told him that in the movie. One preacher I heard said, life is not a dress rehearsal. You only get to live it once. How do you fill in that blank? Life is. That's an interesting study for self. Jesus said he came to give us life. I want you to underline that word life. It's not the word that we get our English word biology from. He's not talking about the existence in our bodies here. He didn't use the word bios, B-I-O-S. He used the word Zoe. Stephanie Patton's little daughter's named Zoe. Her daddy called her the word Jesus used here. This is a kind of life that isn't about biology. This is a life that's inward, eternal, of a different nature. It's a kind of divine life. He said, I'm come that you might have that kind of life. Not only that, more abundantly than you can even imagine, evidently. So how do I fill in that line? Life is. What is it? Some of us see life as the time between just now and death. But let me talk about some of the streets that people walk when they think life is nothing more than, for instance, pleasure. Moses overcame that particular problem. He'd rather suffer the reproaches of Christ than to live in the pleasures of Egypt for a season, the Hebrews writer tells us. Moses saw the life of pleasure as a disaster, not a place to be walking. The hedonist, on the other hand, believes that life is nothing more than eat, drink, and be merry, for tomorrow I die. Everything about his life is pleasure. Pain, then, is not real life to him. It's just not in his vocabulary. It's only when it really makes him happy, as he says, that he's enjoying life. Everything is wait till Friday. In our nation today, one of the gods is pleasure, and they seek it. They even have named a restaurant, TGIF, have they not? In remembrance of life is just when I'm having fun. That's all life is. That pursuit is a destructive pursuit. Notice the first part of verse 10. It says the thief steals and destroys and kills. This is something that can steal our lives, pleasure. If that's all I'm seeking, it will be the wrong way to go. In the Ecclesiastes book, Solomon tried all of the pleasures he could think of trying and then came to the conclusion that it was all nothing. It didn't amount to a thing. He tried everything, including having his own orchestra, gardens, singers. He just put it all out there and all the money he could spend. And when he got through examining it, it was nothing. This route is a destructive route if I'm thinking that life is no more than pleasure. Think with me just for a moment. When have you been closest to God? On the golf course or in the hospital room? At the picnic or at the funeral home? It's not a bad thing to go into the house of mourning sometimes. I know, at least in my experience, the times I've been closest to God are times when my loved one is dying or my loved one is hurting. And I'm on my knees more then, I think, than I am at any other time. Pleasure is a route, all right, but it can destroy us. But what about performance? Have you ever said, if I could just do this, I'd be happy? You know, if I could just play the guitar, I'd surely be happy. Nobody else would, but I would be if I played the guitar. If I could just lead singing, I'd be happy. If I could just have black hair, I don't know, performance. If I could just, you know, Dorothy prayed I'd be a preacher before I became a Christian. She still prays I'll be a preacher. If I could just be a good preacher, I'd be happy, right? Good teacher, whatever. Performance, that's what it is. That's my problem. I'm not what I want to be, so I'm not happy. And life is not what it ought to be because I'm not doing what I think I could do. You know, we could talk to several Bible characters, but I want to talk to Demas for a moment. He at one time was a faithful disciple of Christ. But I don't know what he thought he was supposed to be or what he was going to become. But evidently he was in prison with Paul or about to be in prison because Paul said of him, Demas has forsaken me. Why, Demas? Not about materialism, folks. He was afraid to die for the Lord, and so he hath forsaken me, having loved this, listen to Paul, present world. 2 Timothy 4. Demas, why wouldn't you stay faithful? They're going to put me to death. And I'll never be what I ought to be. You know, have you ever heard of someone dying prematurely? You ever heard that phrase? How do you die prematurely? How do you die before you're supposed to die? What we mean by that is he's not old enough yet. He hasn't gotten the fill of life yet. The fill of life's on the other side, folks. But some of us stay without the life abundant because it's all about, I'm not doing what I think I could do. That's a trap, and it's a dangerous road to follow. What about possessions? If I just had, if I could just get a new car, I'd be happy. In debt, but I'd be. If I could just get a new house. Anybody read Luke 12:15 lately? A fellow ran up to Jesus one day and he said, divide my inheritance for me. Jesus said, I'm not a lawyer, in essence. But then he told him a man's life does not consist in the amount of possessions he has. That's not your life. How much do I have? In studying the essence of the male and the female, we were taught in class that a woman is more attuned to her surroundings than a male is. So it's possible, sisters, for you to be trapped by your possessions more than he is, and where you are, and what you have. And so sometimes we'll pick a man because we think he can give us a lot of possessions if we're female, if we're like 99 and 100% of females. And so we think those possessions somehow are the essence of life. When Jesus used the word man, he used the word mankind. He said, for men and women, life is not about what I have. In fact, you'll never see a U-Haul on the back of a hearse, will you? You cannot take any of these things with you. And what I want to know is, how come at my house we've got a whole building filled with stuff that we don't use? It's in boxes. I don't know what we're ever. Robert, could you come and take it off my hands, please? Because my life does not consist of all those boxes full of stuff. How many of you have the problem of not enough storage? Let me see your hands. Come on, fess up. Come on. We got so much stuff we don't know. We have to have many storage buildings, put our stuff, right? Well, that's a trap, of course. And we know when we get all these things, we're never really happy with them because we have to clean them or box them or store them or do something with them. They start controlling us. It's a trap. It's a dangerous way to go. It's not the kind of life about which Jesus was speaking. And then it's this idea of position, maybe. If I could just become president of the United States, I'd be happy. Or arrested. I don't know which. If I were president of the company, then if I had my own law firm, I'd be. How come they never made me a deacon? If I could just be the song leader, pick on John for a minute. Position. Were you first in your class at school? I was always second. There was a girl that always beat me out. I never did like her. Position. Never was number one on the cross-country team. Always number 3 or 4. Never could be first. Position. It just made me unhappy that I wasn't first. Well, Absalom, what do you want to be? King? But your father's the king. I'll get rid of him. Think you better get your hair cut first. Because if you don't, you're going to get your head caught in a tree and you're going to die. Position. Pursuits. If I could just get another degree, I'd be happy. Boy, if I had that girl in my life, I'd be. I want to be. I'm not happy with. I need to get a better. And on and on. Well, Jesus, we'd like to have abundant life. We really would. But it's not in pleasure, no. It's not in performance, no. It's not in possessions, no. Not your position or your pursuits. Where is it then? It's in a person. Look at John 11:25. The abundant life is in a person, folks. I am the resurrection and the life. He that believeth in me, though he were dead, yet shall he live. I'm the life. I'm Zoe. I'm the way, the truth, and the life. That means I can't live without him. Not really. And I certainly don't want to die without him. But this real life is in a person. And my relationship to that person gives me the abundant life. It gives me a peace that passes all kinds of understanding, every kind of understanding. Nobody really understands it. How can you go through that? How can you be so calm? How can you whatever? Because I live the abundant life. I know a person. His name is Jesus. And my life is bound up in him, and so it's abundant, it's overflowing, it's filled. It's a kind of water that never makes me thirsty, a kind of bread that never makes me hungry again. It's a person. And there's nothing wrong with the phrase personal relationship to Christ unless you understand that to mean faith only. But I have a personal relationship with Jesus. That is the abundant life. It's that simple. I am come that they might have life, and that more abundantly. Look at John 10:7. Then said Jesus unto them, I say truly to you, I am the door of the sheep. There's a P for protection. This one who brings me the abundant life is my protector. The shepherd would lie down at the gate of the sheepfold at night so that no animal could get through to his sheep. He's the protector. He's the door. He's the one standing in the way of all of those problems. Listen to Brother Kaufman. He said, why cannot men believe their Creator to the effect that the way of Christ is the way of joy and fulfillment? Why do we have trouble believing that? Look at the first line, please, of Psalm 23. Let me see if I can translate that line for us today. The Lord is my shepherd. Well, that's personal. My shepherd. But then he added, I shall not want. The first time I read that line, I thought he meant, since the Lord is my shepherd, then the fact is I don't need anything. But I reread that in the original language, and I'm looking at it a little differently now. When he wrote, the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want, he had made a decision not to want. Why? Based on the fact that he didn't need to want anything once the Lord was his shepherd. What an interesting thought that is. If this is the abundant life, if it's mine, I have to decide then. I make a decision. I don't want anything. I have everything there is. I sat in Sister Womack's kitchen. I may have told you this before. Bess Womack, country lady down in Mississippi, great lady. In her kitchen there were two chairs. One had no back on it. I beat her to it and sat in it, and we sat together in the kitchen. The linoleum had holes in it in the floor. The pump for the water was out in the yard, not on her sink. There was one bulb in that kitchen, no light fixture. It was just hanging by a wire over the table. The table was kind of rickety. And we were talking, and I kept thinking, as a young preacher, I was really smart in those days. I knew everything. Man, I knew how to talk to these ladies, TJ. I just had it made. I'm a young preacher. And I said to her, Sister Womack, just how do you get along being alone? Boy, she told me that. She preached me a sermon I've never forgotten. She said, young man, I am not alone. I wish I could have been smarter in those days, but I knew exactly what she meant. Didn't you? She was his, and nothing else mattered. Not the light bulb, or the rickety chairs, or the rickety table, or the fact the water was in the yard. Didn't matter. Not to Sister Bess. And when I did her funeral, we told that story, and her daughter came up and she said the same thing to me. I'm not alone. That's the abundant life. And that's how to come to the end of it when you're not alone. James, where is James Hubbard? Thank you for that statement. Ooh, man, I didn't need to preach after you said that. I mean, this is where you wanted to be. Why? Here's where all of the abundant life folks are, right here. Somebody says, well, I'm alive, my heart's pumping. That's not what we're talking about. This is not natural life. This is Zoe life. Let me ask us a question then. Are you really alive today or just breathing? Is it an existence for you or a real, exciting life because He is mine and I am His? Look at John 10:10 again. I'm come that they might have abundant. It's the Greek word for fullness. Some of the translations have overflowing. That's good. Christ is offering us today an upgrade from this mere physical existence to a real life. Everyone's looking for a pursuit or a performance or a possession. How about an upgrade? And what are you going to be upgraded to, servant? Because the real life is a life of service. And you will be feeling much better about yourself when you start living that kind of a life. Because you will deny yourself, you'll put yourself to death, you'll take up your cross, and you'll follow him. That's the abundant life, folks. And that's the life Jesus is offering you this afternoon. Spiritual, servant. How about being upgraded this afternoon? From what's in it for me to what's in it for everybody else because I'm his servant. He doesn't ask us to do much. If I believe that he's the Christ, the Son of the living God, I have a choice to make. It's called repentance in the Scripture, but it's a decision, a mental decision, to decide to do whatever he says to do, because if I do it, I'm going to have a real life. Not just merely breathing and existing, working from sundown to sunup to sundown, whatever, every day, and just for what? Paycheck. No, not that kind of life. I'm going to have a real life when I decide to do what he tells me to do. And he asked us to do two things immediately. First thing he said was, confess me before men. Use your mouth and say, I believe that Jesus is the Christ, the Son of the living God. Because with the mouth, confession is made unto salvation. That's his first charge. Did you decide to do that? Once you have decided that he is the Christ, the Son of the living God, and you're willing to tell everybody about it, Timothy made a good profession before many witnesses, 1 Timothy 6:12. I've decided to tell everybody about it, you're ready to be immersed in water. And as you come up out of that watery grave, God's going to take away all your past sins. He's going to put you into the Christ who is the abundant life. Well, what if I sin then, Keith? Make that decision to stop it and tell God you're sorry and ask him to forgive you. It's got two laws of pardon. They're both for those who are not saved, you need to be baptized. For those who are, you need to repent if necessary. But I want to recommend something to you today. Real life, not just existence. And that real life is in Jesus. Will you come to him while we stand and while we sing?